Hello, in this video I'm going to go over how to create our material. So whenever looking at a new asset or a new material, I'm trying to look at different features that make it up. So I'll look at certain things. Let me bring up the opacity on this so it's not looking through. There's an overall bumpiness over everything, and you're trying to take in all these little things, how the highlight is hitting. So there's even a smaller bump, and then the forehead is a little bit smoother, but on the sides it gets a little bumpier. So I kind of added that bigger bump in here, but we could probably add a little bit more. I added that bigger bump when I was doing, so you're seeing that kind of wobbliness a little bit. But I could probably add a bit more in the material. So I'm just going to put this off to the side a little bit, like right down here. It says reference. And I will start with the skull, and I'll delete this layer that it comes with. And usually I start with, my process is I usually start with a fill layer, and I try to get the material, my base material down. So basically I want to get the color, so I'm color picking and finding a good place where there's not the highlight where it's too bright and not too dark in the shadow. And then I'm also then looking at the roughness and like, okay, what's the general roughness of this thing? This is too shiny, obviously. So I am going and bringing up the roughness and having my light go over the character or over the asset and seeing if that's not still too much. Like if I bring this all the way down, bring that, okay, I might even darken this a bit like that. So I was seeing an issue, so I had to pause it. I had a certain setting on my project, so if you go to edit, project config, I would just went down here to color management, and I had a open color IO color management on there, and I just changed this to legacy to get back to kind of standard kind of setup. It was making my highlights go really bright, so I just changed it back to legacy and it kind of fixed it. Okay, so now that's getting close to about the, maybe a little bit rough for about the shininess that I would expect. So I'll just name the space, and I'm going to duplicate this, and I'll name, so the next thing is the overall bumpiness. So I'm thinking that it will probably be a little bit brighter. I have it bump out maybe, or bump in. So if it's gonna bump in, I would make it a little bit darker probably. So let's do it's bumping in a bit. Do that, and I'll just name this large bump. And I'm not going to be using metallic, so I'll just keep that. I'm going to keep everything else, and I'll have a little bit of, have it go in a little bit. And this is probably going to be, I'll change a bit, and I'll bring up the roughness. And then I'm going to add a black mask, then right click over that and add a fill. We're going to add a fill because we want to use just a texture to apply this. So I'll search noise, And the way I kind of work is I just like look through and see what's kind of the pattern that I'm seeing on my skull that I can use one of these textures. I can even look on like textures.com to see. So I think maybe the clouds 3 might be a good one. And you might notice you're seeing all these kind of lines. Those are from our cuts on our UVs. So we can get around not having to fix this by just going over to projection on the top and changing this to triplanar. And now I'm getting this overall noise, which is actually pretty cool. And I can scale it up. So maybe I want something like that size. It goes everywhere. It kind of makes things feel more organic and real. And I think that looks pretty good. So, and it adds a little bit of variation in the color also, because I darkened it a bit. The color is a little darker than my base, and it's pushing in. And there's a bit of a roughness change also, material change. And I could even push that even further. Going to the roughness, bringing it up in those areas, so whenever the light goes over it, there's going to be a difference in material when it slides over it. So I think that something like this might be good. Cool. So then I'm also seeing tiny bumps. So you'll see that there's a little dappling that happens. And you can see it in other references also. If you go to, where's a good one? Like little bumps here too, you can see. If you see this one you really see it. So I'm gonna add a finer bump over the whole thing. So I'm gonna duplicate this. And then I'm gonna go into here and into my clouds, and I think keeping it how it is fine, and I just need to make it smaller. So tiling, so bring that up like that, so something like that. That's too much, so I can maybe reduce. I can even just bring this down this way to reduce the effect. So I get that overall bumpiness. It's starting to look good. Okay, so I'm getting a good kind of more natural bump on my skull. And the next step would probably be just adding a dirt. Might be a good effect that we can add. So like whenever you are going into here, you'll see like that little dirt crevices stuff that's happening. And I'll just add another layer, and I'll color pick from here. Might be a good color. And dirt is very rough usually, so I'm going to bring up the roughness, and then I think that's good. I'm going to turn off height and metal, and probably normal I don't need. And then in here I'm going to add a black mask, and then add a generator. And then click on my generator, and in here there's dirt. Might be a good one. So from here, I'm just gonna have to dial in this until I get something where I'm mostly happy with. Use a triplanar on it. Grunge and mount. Level, bring that down. So that seems Like, I don't really like it when it gets too dark. So maybe I can do this and then I'll mask another thing over it. Okay. Something like this. And then what I can do is add a fill layer over this so that I can put a texture over it. So I'll just look through and find something more natural looking. Maybe like a dirt might be good. And then I'm gonna multiply this over it. So it's gonna take away the areas where the dirt is being seen. And I can even, oops, if that's too much, I can even reduce the opacity so it's getting more, it's subtly more removing it in certain areas. There, here. There we go. Just enough. It's getting it, adding that dirt, but not too much. So that's a good base. And then I would maybe even add some painted dirt in there, certain areas where it makes sense. But that's, I'm not seeing a ton. There's a little bit like dirt here and things like that. That's about the subtlety that I want. And then I could just go and add a paint layer for that kind of stuff. If it's not quite getting there with my generators, I can go to my paint layer and find some dirt. Splash. Let's see, some good dirt. This one. Let's add some and then remove it. I could even just put this underneath this one. Let's see, dirt spots. And I can even go into my eraser. Turn that there. Let's try to make this a little more natural looking. Like that. Like this. That on top. Go to my brush and I can even make this, press X, get rid of spots that I don't really like. So maybe this is too consistent. That, a little too consistent for me. So wherever you're seeing it like not feeling super natural or too consistent, then adding areas of breakup, usually the way to go. That's too much. Whoa, dirt. Stuff like that. So, yeah, so just play around with that, add the dirt, that kind of thing. See you in the next one.